The New Psychology of Success by Carol Dweck. Introduction. The Power of Belief. Carol Dweck's mindset presents a simple yet transformative idea. The view you adopt of yourself profoundly affects the way you lead your life. This core belief, which Dweck calls a mindset, dictates how you approach challenges, cope with failure, and ultimately, whether you reach your potential. The book is the culmination of decades of research, sparked by an observation of how children responded to difficult puzzles. Some were devastated, seeing failure as a label. Others were thrilled, exclaiming, "I love a challenge." This fundamental difference led Dweck to identify two core mindsets, the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. This summary will explore the nature of these two mindsets, their profound implications in every domain of life, from education and sports to business and relationships, and, most importantly, how we can learn to change our mindset to foster greater achievement, resilience, and fulfillment. Chapter 1. The Mindsets. Why do people differ? The question of why people differ in ability and character is an ancient one. Some, from the days of phrenology to modern genetic determinism, have argued for a fixed nature, where our qualities are carved in stone. Others have emphasized the power of experience, training, and environment. Alfred Binet, the inventor of the IQ test, surprisingly fell into the latter camp. He designed his test not to label children with a fixed intelligence, but to identify those who needed extra help, believing that with the right methods, intelligence could be enhanced. Modern science confirms a dynamic interaction between genes and environment. Neuroscientist Gilbert Gottlieb states that genes require input from the environment to function properly. We now know the brain has a remarkable capacity for lifelong learning and development. While we start with different genetic endowments, Robert Sternberg confirms that the key to achieving expertise is purposeful engagement, not just a fixed, prior ability. The two mindsets, a practical framework. Dweck's crucial contribution is translating this philosophical debate into a practical framework for understanding our own psychology. The fixed mindset. This is the belief that your qualities, intelligence, personality, moral character, are fixed traits. You have a certain amount, and that's that. This mindset creates an urgent need to prove yourself repeatedly. Every situation is evaluated. Will I succeed or fail? Will I look smart or dumb? Will I be accepted or rejected? Your identity is at stake in every outcome. Dweck illustrates this with her own sixth-grade teacher, Mrs. Wilson, who seated students by IQ, creating a culture where looking smart was the only goal. The growth mindset. This is the belief that your basic qualities are things you can cultivate through your efforts. Although people may differ in their initial talents, aptitudes, and interests, everyone can change and grow through application and experience. This mindset does not assert that anyone can be anything, but that a person's true potential is unknown and unknowable. It's impossible to foresee what can be accomplished with years of passion, toil, and training. History is filled with ordinary children like Darwin and Tolstoy, or ungifted athletes like Ben Hogan, who achieved extraordinary things through dedication. The core difference lies in the goal. In the fixed mindset, the goal is to prove you are smart and talented. In the growth mindset, the goal is to learn and improve. A view from the two mindsets. To make the distinction vivid, Dweck presents a vignette. You get a C+ on an important midterm, receive a parking ticket, and feel brushed off by a friend. When posed with this scenario, people with a fixed mindset saw it as a measure of their inherent incompetence and worthlessness. Their coping strategies were passive and avoidant: stay in bed, get drunk, cry. In contrast, those with the growth mindset focused on problem solving. I need to try harder in class, I'll pay the ticket and talk to my friend. They did not enjoy the setbacks, but they did not label themselves because of them. They were ready to take risks, confront challenges, and keep working. Self-insight. Who knows themselves? One might assume that the growth mindset leads to inflated self-views. The research shows the opposite. In studies, people with the fixed mindset were terrible at estimating their abilities, grossly misjudging their performance. Those with the growth mindset were amazingly accurate. This makes sense. If you believe you can develop, you are open to accurate, even unflattering, information about your current abilities because you need it to learn effectively. The fixed mindset, however, distorts reality, as every piece of information is either good or bad news about your fixed traits. What's in store? The growth mindset is the foundation of a love of learning, resilience in the face of setbacks, and greater, more creative success. The rest of the book is a journey through how these mindsets play out in school, sports, business, and relationships, where they come from, and how they can be changed. Dweck concludes the chapter with a self-assessment, asking readers to gauge their own mindset about intelligence and personality. She emphasizes that mindsets are beliefs, and beliefs can be changed. Chapter 2: Inside the Mindsets. This chapter delves deeper into the internal worlds created by each mindset. Is success about learning, or proving you're smart? Benjamin Barber divided the world into learners and non-learners. The fixed mindset creates non-learners. Even young children, when given a choice between redoing an easy puzzle or trying a harder one, will make telling choices. Fixed mindset 4-year-olds, already fearing mistakes, chose the safe option. Growth-minded children couldn't understand why anyone would not want to try a new challenge. This aversion to learning opportunities extends to critical life choices. At the University of Hong Kong, where classes are in English, students who were not proficient were offered a remedial course. Those with a growth mindset seized the chance. Those with the fixed mindset, to avoid exposing a deficiency, were willing to risk their entire college career. Brainwave studies reinforce this. When answering questions, fixed mindset individuals only paid attention to feedback about whether they were right or wrong. They showed no interest in information that could help them learn the correct answer. For growth-minded individuals, learning was the priority. Relationships, the ideal partner. Mindsets also dictate the kind of relationships we seek. In a study, people with a fixed mindset wanted a partner who would put them on a pedestal, make them feel perfect, and worship them, enshrining their fixed qualities. Those with the growth mindset wanted a partner who would see their faults and help them improve, challenge them to grow, and encourage them to learn new things. This fundamental difference can create conflict when a growth-minded partner's desire for communication is seen by a fixed-minded partner as devastating criticism. CEO disease and the danger of not learning. The fixed mindset's aversion to challenge and criticism is starkly visible in business leaders, a phenomenon often called CEO disease. Lee Iacocca, after his initial success at Chrysler, stopped innovating, surrounded himself with worshippers, and exiled critics. He lost touch with his industry, and Japanese car companies swept the market. He had become a non-learner. In contrast, Darwin Smith of Kimberly-Clark never stopped trying to be qualified for the job. CEOs also face a dilemma between short-term strategies that boost stock prices and long-term growth. Albert Dunlap chose the short-term route at Sunbeam, and the company collapsed. Lou Gerstner endured Wall Street's sneers while overhauling IBM, leading it back to industry leadership. The meaning of effort and challenge. For those with a growth mindset, effort is what makes you smart or talented. They thrive on challenges. Soccer star Mia Hamm constantly played up against better opponents to improve faster. Patricia Miranda, an unathletic child who said she was a joke, used effort and training to become an Olympic bronze medalist in wrestling. Christopher Reeve, paralyzed after a horse riding accident, defied medical science through a demanding exercise program and began to regain movement, changing our understanding of the nervous system's potential. In contrast, fixed mindset individuals thrive only when things are safely within their grasp. Pre-med students in a tough chemistry course showed a plunge in interest when the work became difficult. For them, if it wasn't a testimony to their intelligence, they couldn't enjoy it. The same was true for fifth graders with challenging puzzles. When do you feel smart? This question reveals the core of each mindset. Fixed-minded people feel smart when they are flawless, when they don't make mistakes, finish something fast and perfect, or when something is easy for them but hard for others. Growth-minded people feel smart when they are learning, when something is really hard and they try really hard, or when they work on something for a long time and start to figure it out. This has dire consequences. Talented graduate students at top universities can feel like imposters the first day because they don't already know how to do everything. This pressure to be perfect immediately may have contributed to the downfalls of young reporters like Janet Cook and Stephen Glass, who fabricated stories rather than admit they were still learning. The tyranny of now. In the fixed mindset, a single test or evaluation can measure you forever. A woman named Loretta was convinced that a test she took at age 5, upon arriving in a new country, defined her as not a true eagle, despite a subsequent brilliant academic career. Studies with fifth graders showed that those with a fixed mindset believed a single test could measure their basic intelligence now and forever. This is why every success is so urgent and every failure so catastrophic. Potential, Dweck argues, is not someone's capacity at a single point in time, but their capacity to develop skills with effort over time. Organizations like NASA and leaders like Jack Welch understood this, selecting people not for pure histories of success, but for their resilience and capacity for growth. Proving you're special. The fixed mindset often leads to a need to feel not just smart, but special and superior. John McEnroe's autobiography is a testament to this. He describes a world where being number one meant everyone catered to his every whim, from sawdust consistency to cleaning up his vomit. He saw effort as a threat and blamed everyone and everything for his losses. In stark contrast, Michael Jordan, who worked harder than perhaps any athlete in history, saw himself as a human being like everyone else. His greatness came from struggle and growth, not inherent superiority. Mindsets change the meaning of failure. In the fixed mindset, failure is transformed from an action to an identity. A 3-year-old denied entry to a top preschool can be seen by his parents as a failure. Golfers like Ernie Els feel that a loss would make them a different person. College rejections turn brilliant students into the girl who didn't get into Princeton. In the growth mindset, failure is a painful but instructive setback. Jim Marshall, a Minnesota Vikings player, famously ran the wrong way and scored a touchdown for the opposing team. Devastated, he chose at halftime to do something about it. He played brilliantly in the second half, contributed to a victory, and later used the experience to become a better player and person. Conversely, Bernard Louiseau, a celebrated French chef, committed suicide over rumors he might lose 2 points in a restaurant guide. The fixed mindset made the idea of being a has-been unbearable. When faced with failure, fixed-minded individuals often resort to counterproductive strategies. They may shirk future effort, cheat, blame others, or try to make themselves feel better by comparing themselves to people who did worse. Growth-minded individuals, instead, confront their deficiencies directly and learn from them. Mindsets change the meaning of effort. The fixed mindset creates a paradox. If you have to work hard, you must not be very smart or talented. Effort is only for the less endowed. This belief can be terrifying for naturals, like violinist Nadia Salerno-Sonnenberg, who was so afraid that trying and failing would remove all her excuses that she stopped practicing altogether. Only when her teacher threatened to expel her did she commit to effort, and she subsequently won a major competition. The growth mindset reframes effort not as a sign of weakness, but as the key to mastery. Stories like that of Seabiscuit, the broken-down horse who became a champion through grit, and his author, Laura Hillenbrand, who wrote the book while battling severe chronic fatigue, are testaments to the transformative power of effort. The fear in the growth mindset is not the fear of effort, but the heartbreaking regret of, I could have been. Chapter 3: The Truth About Ability and Accomplishment. This chapter dismantles common myths about achievement and explores how mindsets impact education and artistic ability. Mindsets and school achievement. The transition to junior high school is a challenging time, and it's where mindsets create a dramatic divergence. Dweck's research followed students making this transition. Those with the fixed mindset showed an immediate drop in grades that worsened over 2 years. They explained their poor performance by maligning their own abilities or blaming their teachers. Those with the growth mindset, faced with the same challenges, mobilized their resources and saw their grades improve. The fixed mindset fosters a low-effort syndrome. To protect their egos, students decide not to try. As educator John Holt observed, their intelligence becomes disconnected from schooling. Teaching these students the growth mindset can be transformative. One turned-off student, Jimmy, asked with tears in his eyes, "You mean I don't have to be dumb?" And from that day on, he began working hard. In college, the same pattern holds. Pre-med students in a difficult chemistry course were studied. Both groups studied, but in different ways. Fixed mindset students engaged in unthinking memorization. Growth-minded students took charge of their learning, looking for themes and underlying principles, and going over mistakes until they understood them. They also managed their motivation, maintaining interest even when the material was dry. The growth-minded students earned significantly better grades. Can everyone do well? Dweck argues that with the right mindset and teaching, people are capable of far more than we think. She gives the example of Jaime Escalante, who taught inner-city Hispanic students at Garfield High School, one of the worst schools in Los Angeles college-level calculus. By asking, "How can I teach them?" rather than, "Can I teach them?" he led them to the top of the national charts. Similarly, Marva Collins took Chicago children who had been labeled learning disabled and retarded, and treated them like geniuses, having them read and discuss Shakespeare, Tolstoy, and Aesop, with transformative results. Benjamin Bloom's research on 120 world-class achievers found that most were not remarkable as children and showed no clear talent before intensive training. His conclusion: what any person in the world can learn, almost all persons can learn, given the appropriate conditions. Is artistic ability a gift? Many believe artistic skill is a pure, God-given talent. Dweck confesses she believed this about her own inability to draw. However, Betty Edwards' book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, with its stunning before and after self-portraits from a 5-day course, proves that drawing is a set of learnable, seeing, skills. Some pick them up naturally, others learn them deliberately. The lesson: just because some can do something with little training doesn't mean others can't do it with training. Jackson Pollock is a prime example. Experts agree he had little native talent, but through wild dedication and a love for being an artist, he mastered his craft and revolutionized modern art. As choreographer Twyla Tharp asserts, there are no natural geniuses, not even Mozart. Creativity is the result of hard work and habit. The danger of praise and positive labels. Society believes that praising intelligence builds confidence and achievement. Dweck's research reveals the opposite. In a key study, students were given puzzles and praised either for their ability or their effort. The results were dramatic. When offered a choice of tasks, the ability-praised students rejected a challenging new task, preferring easy ones to ensure continued success. The effort-praised students overwhelmingly chose the challenging task. When given harder problems, the ability-praised students lost their enjoyment, thought they weren't smart, and saw their performance plummet. The effort-praised students remained engaged, enjoyed the challenge, and improved their performance. Perhaps most alarming, nearly 40% of the ability-praised students lied about their scores when given a chance. Praising talent, it turns out, makes people vulnerable. It creates a fixed mindset, where the label must be protected at all costs. The story of composer Adam Guettel, grandson of Richard Rodgers, illustrates this burden. Hailed as a genius from a young age, he was riddled with anxiety, tics, and drug problems, and even faked a voice change to get out of a performance. The gift had filled him with fear and doubt. Negative labels and how they work. Negative stereotypes act as powerful negative labels. The research of Claude Steele and Joshua Aronson shows that even subtly evoking a stereotype can significantly lower test performance. This stereotype threat fills people's minds with distracting thoughts and worries about confirming the stereotype. However, the growth mindset is an antidote. It takes the teeth out of the stereotype because it doesn't believe in permanent inferiority. If you are behind, you work harder. In studies, African American students with a growth mindset were able to learn from critical feedback from a white professor, even if they found him arrogant, because learning was their priority. Those with a fixed mindset rejected the feedback outright. Women in math classes with a fixed mindset felt their sense of belonging shrink over the semester, especially when they perceived stereotyping. Women with the growth mindset maintained a strong sense of belonging and were able to fight back, supporting each other. The chapter ends with positive examples. The Polgar family, who produced 3 top female chess players through a belief in hard work, and a growth-minded family whose daughters became math whizzes, showing that a focus on development can overcome societal labels. Chapter 4. Sports, the mindset of a champion. In sports, the belief in natural talent is paramount. Yet, Dweck shows that the mindset of a champion is almost always a growth mindset. The idea of the natural. Billy Beane was a phenomenal natural athlete, destined for baseball stardom. But he had a fixed mindset. The minute things went wrong, he fell apart, unable to tolerate failure. He never learned to analyze or correct his deficiencies. His career floundered. In contrast, his less talented teammate Lenny Dykstra had a growth mindset and no fear of failure. Watching Dykstra was a revelation for Beane, who later, as a general manager, used a growth mindset approach to lead the low-budget Oakland Athletics to an extraordinary winning season. Many assumed naturals didn't need to exist. Muhammad Ali failed physical measurements for a natural boxer. His victory came from his mind, studying his opponents and using psychological warfare. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school varsity team and was known as the hardest working athlete in history, constantly improving his weaknesses. Babe Ruth was not a naturally great hitter, he developed his consistency through relentless practice and discipline. Wilma Rudolph overcame polio and paralysis to become the fastest woman on earth. Jackie Joyner-Kersee, the greatest female athlete, stated that her improvement was her reward for hours of work. Character, heart, and the mind of a champion. Character, in sports, is the ability to dig down and find strength when things are going against you. This is a product of the growth mindset. Pete Sampras, down in his record-breaking Wimbledon final, searched his past experiences for a frame of reference to carry him through and staged a comeback. Jackie Joyner-Kersee self-coached herself through an asthma attack to win a world championship. Billie Jean King realized that a champion is someone who can raise their level of play when they need to, who gets around 3 times tougher when the match is on the line. Mia Hamm defined the most important thing for a soccer player as mental toughness, something that must be learned and struggled with every day. This stands in stark contrast to fixed-mindset athletes like John McEnroe or Pedro Martinez, who, when challenged, resorted to tantrums, blame, and unsportsmanlike conduct, often costing their teams critical victories. What is success? What is failure? For the growth-minded athlete, success is about giving your best effort, learning, and improving. Joyner Kersee derived happiness from the process. John Wooden found as much pleasure in games where his team prepared fully and played near their ability as in championship wins. Tiger Woods and Mia Hamm valued the effort they made even when they didn't win. Failure is a wake-up call. Michael Jordan used his failures as motivation to practice harder. After a failed comeback, he learned, "You back and dominate this game. I will be physically and mentally prepared from now on." For the fixed-minded athlete, success is about establishing superiority. McEnroe admitted his head was so big it could barely fit through the door. Failure is a label. McEnroe was so embarrassed by a mixed doubles loss he didn't play again for 20 years. Sergio Garcia blamed his caddies and even his shoes for his failures. Taking charge of success and teamwork. Growth-minded athletes take charge of their success. Jordan compensated for aging by developing new, sophisticated shots. Woods manages his motivation in his game with a long-term plan. They understand that every sport is a team sport, relying on coaches, trainers, and mentors. Jordan emphasized that teamwork wins championships, and superstars must be willing to fill a role. This was a lesson missed by talented players like Patrick Ewing and Keyshawn Johnson, who prioritized their stardom over team success. The chapter concludes by contrasting two young basketball players. Isis Tillis, burdened by the fixed mindset and a fear of being a nobody, like her father, and Candace Parker, who, taught by her father that you get out what you put in, embraced the growth mindset and went on to make history. Chapter 5: Business, Mindset and Leadership. Dweck applies the mindset theory to the corporate world, showing how it can make or break companies and leaders. Enron and the talent mindset. The collapse of Enron is a classic case of the fixed mindset in action. In the late 1990s, McKinsey & Company promoted the talent mindset, arguing that companies must recruit and reward innate superstars. Enron built a culture that worshipped this idea, forcing employees into a fixed mindset where they had to look supremely talented at all times. This created an environment where people could not admit or correct deficiencies, could not take remedial action, and would sooner lie than be seen as flawed, precisely what Dweck's research had predicted. Organizations that grow. Jim Collins, in his book Good to Great, discovered that companies that made a sustained leap to greatness were not led by larger-than-life, egotistical leaders. Instead, they were led by humble, self-effacing, yet fiercely determined individuals, growth-minded leaders. These leaders, like Alan Wurtzel of Circuit City, were not afraid to ask questions, confront brutal facts, and debate with their teams to gain a clearer picture of reality. They focused on improvement, not on proving their own superiority. A study by Wood and Bandura simulated this. Business students given a fixed mindset did not learn from their mistakes. Those given a growth mindset became progressively better, more productive, and more confident. Fixed mindset leaders in action: Iacocca, Dunlap, and the Enron chiefs. Fixed mindset leaders are defined by their belief in their own inherent superiority and their need for constant validation. Lee Iacocca, After an initial success in turning around Chrysler, Iacocca became consumed with his image as a hero. He spent more time on his public persona than on investing in the company's future, blamed Japanese imports rather than improving his cars, and became a tyrannical leader. His fixed mindset led him to sacrifice the company's long-term health for his own ego. Albert Dunlap. Dunlap openly proclaimed himself a superstar, and believed business was solely about making money for shareholders. He had no interest in the long term or in employees, famously cutting thousands of jobs. His focus was on looking like a hero to Wall Street, which led to fraudulent accounting and the collapse of Sunbeam. Kenneth Lay and Jeffrey Skilling. These leaders cultivated an aura of innate brilliance. Lay saw himself as a visionary king, while Skilling used his intellect to intimidate and dismiss anyone who questioned him. They believed their genius alone created value, leading to a culture where deals were recorded as profits before any revenue was generated and where follow-through was despised. These leaders often felt invulnerable and entitled, surrounding themselves with sycophants and creating brutal environments where criticism was silenced. This CEO disease, and the resulting culture of fear inhibit innovation and lead to mediocrity or ruin. Growth mindset leaders in action. Welch, Gerstner, and Mulcahy. In contrast, growth-minded leaders believe in human potential and use the company as an engine for growth. Jack Welch. Welch transformed GE into the world's most valuable company. He did this by rooting out elitism, rewarding teamwork over individual genius, and getting rid of brutal bosses. He was known for listening to frontline employees and crediting his team for his success. He learned from his own failures and fostered a culture of openness and continuous learning. Lou Gerstner. When Gerstner took over IBM, it was a dying, smug, elitist company riddled with turf wars. He attacked the fixed mindset by dismantling the hierarchy, promoting teamwork, and focusing on serving the customer instead of internal politics. He communicated openly with all employees and created a culture where execution and follow-through mattered more than glamorous deals. He led one of the most remarkable turnarounds in corporate history. Anne Mulcahy. Mulcahy took over Xerox when it was on the brink of collapse, plagued by debt and investigation. Her approach was a master class in the growth mindset. She combined relentless learning about the company's finances with toughness in making difficult decisions and deep compassion for her employees and customers. She listened, learned, and empowered her people, leading Xerox back to profitability and earning a reputation as a top turnaround leader. Chapter 6. Relationships, Mindsets in Love. Mindsets play a crucial role in our personal relationships, shaping our approach to love, friendship, and social anxiety. Mindsets in love. As seen in Chapter 2, people seek different things in a partner based on their mindset. The fixed mindset desires a partner who will put them on a pedestal and validate their fixed qualities. This leads to several problems. 1. The partner is enemy. If your partner criticizes you, it means your fixed qualities are flawed. Therefore, any flaw they point out becomes a threat, leading to blame and defensiveness rather than communication. 2. Competition. In a fixed mindset, you may need to prove you are the more superior partner. Your success can be your partner's failure, and vice versa. The growth mindset, in contrast, believes that both partners can grow and that a good relationship is one that encourages this growth. Challenges and disagreements, while not pleasant, are opportunities for understanding and development. The relationship itself is seen as something that can be developed. Friendship, shyness, bullies, and victims. Friendship. Fixed-minded individuals may use friends to boost their self-esteem, seeking those who will always affirm their greatness. Growth-minded individuals seek friends who will challenge them to grow. Shyness. Shy people crave social interaction but are terrified of rejection. The fixed mindset makes them hyper-aware of potential judgment, leading them to avoid social situations to protect themselves. The growth mindset allows shy people to engage socially, viewing it as a skill to be practiced, even if it's uncomfortable. Bullies and victims. Bullies often operate from a fixed mindset, using aggression to establish their superiority and validate their self-worth. For victims, the fixed mindset can be especially damaging, as they may internalize the bullying, believing it reflects a permanent deficiency. The growth mindset can help victims see the bullying as the bully's problem and maintain their own sense of worth through a focus on their own growth. Chapter 7. Parents, Teachers, and Coaches. Where do mindsets come from? This chapter explores how adults can foster, or hinder, a growth mindset in children. Messages about success and failure. Parents and teachers send mindset messages constantly. Fixed mindset messages. Praising children's intelligence or talent teaches the fixed mindset. Well-meaning but misguided, this praise makes children vulnerable and afraid of challenges. Growth mindset messages. Praising process, effort, strategy, focus, perseverance, and improvement, teaches the growth mindset. This gives children a recipe for action and resilience. Consoling children for their inherent traits also promotes a fixed mindset. Instead, we should console them with a growth-minded approach that focuses on learning and improvement. What makes a great teacher or parent? Great teachers and parents believe in development and set high standards for all children, not just the high achievers. They are not judges, they are allies for learning. Marva Collins, for example, constantly told her students, "You can't just sit there and grow smart. I'm not going to let you fail." She delivered this message with high standards and deep affection. Coaches with a growth mindset, like John Wooden, did not recruit for talent alone. They recruited for character and the willingness to learn and work hard. They taught players how to win by constantly improving, filling roles, and working as a team. Chapter 8. Changing Mindsets, a Workshop. The final chapter is a practical guide to changing your mindset. Dweck assures readers that mindsets are just beliefs, and beliefs can be changed with awareness and effort. The nature of change. Change is a journey, not a declaration. It involves 1. Learning to hear your fixed mindset voice. You must become aware of the internal monologue of the fixed mindset. Are you sure you can do it? What if you fail? You're not naturally gifted at this. 2. Recognizing you have a choice. How you interpret challenges, setbacks, and effort is a choice. 3. Talking back with a growth mindset voice. Answer the fixed mindset voice with a growth-minded perspective. When it says, "What if you fail?" Answer, "Most successful people had failures along the way." When it says, "This is too hard," say, "This is the best time to learn." 4. Taking growth mindset action. You must take the risks, confront the challenges, and persist in the face of setbacks. A workshop for you. Dweck provides exercises. Visualize your brain forming new connections. When you learn something new, picture your brain creating new neural pathways. Seek constructive criticism. Instead of surrounding yourself with worshippers, ask for frank feedback. Reframe past setbacks. Think of a past failure. Acknowledge the feelings, but then put it in a growth mindset. What did you learn? How can you use it for growth? Plan for growth mindset action. Is there something you've always wanted to do but were afraid you weren't good at? Make a concrete plan to do it. Maintaining change. Change is not a one-time event. The fixed mindset will reassert itself, especially in times of stress. The key is to recognize the triggers and continue to respond with the growth mindset. It's a continuous process of choosing growth over validation, learning over judging, and effort over the appearance of ease. Conclusion: the road ahead. Mindset offers a powerful and optimistic message. Our potential is not predetermined. The hand you're dealt is just the starting point. The growth mindset is based on the belief that change is possible and that your true potential is unknown. It allows you to love what you're doing despite the difficulties and to value the process regardless of the outcome. By embracing challenges, persisting in the face of setbacks, seeing effort as the path to mastery, and learning from criticism, we can all foster a greater sense of free will and lead more resilient, accomplished, and fulfilling lives. The journey to a growth mindset is the journey of a lifetime, and it is one that unlocks the door to lifelong learning and growth.